Well, good day. We got another episode of the One More Boom podcast, and this is a special day because you're the first person that we're bringing on the show that's not my partner, Sean Miller. So I appreciate you being on, Dave.
No problem. How funny is that? And you were the first one who did it for me. It's like friends supporting friends.
Dude, it's sick. And yeah, I want to dive into everything that you're doing with Support Pipelines, your podcast and Pipestone projects and your other endeavors. But maybe give a little introduction on who David Hermanson is.
For sure. I always tell people, I'm kind of a kid who grew up in pipeline. So it's all I've ever known and done. And people ask, why I am such a vocal supporter of the industry, because a lot of these people, it's not just politics or economics for me. It's very, very personal. Yeah. And a lot of these people are my friends and my family, yourself included, of course. I don't even know Sean, but we're rolling around the same community of people. So that's why I do what I do. It started, very young. Big Dave just getting us all jobs as kids, as laborers out on the pipeline. And I think when I first started, I started as a surveyor's helper. I think in 95 was my first job. And then my first pipeline job was in winter 96. I think I was working in town at Pizza Hut, going to school at the time. And I was making, I want to say $4.50, $4.75 an hour plus tips. And then I went out to the pipeline. Tom Holton was an old Irishman, had a pipeline company who put in crossings basically. And I think they were paying us, I want to say like $25 an hour, which is insane. Money back then, and I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
And I'm just so grateful, and I kind of kept chipping away at it. I already started school, so I kind of kept bouncing around. So I ended up squishing a 4-year degree into about 7 by the time I got through all the pipeline jobs. And I just kept plugging away, and eventually I gave it up. I don't want to say gave it up, but in 2006 or so, we'd been overseas for a couple of years teaching English. And I thought, well, rather than go back to pipelining, because, Nick, better than anyone, this industry is rife with social issues, relationship issues. And I thought, well, maybe I shouldn't keep pipelining. So we went and built houses for a couple of years. And I just got kind of sucked back into it from talking, it was a slow time in 2008. And a guy phones, hey, you want to come on this pipeline job in Saskatchewan and Manitoba? And I'm like, we needed the money for sure. But at the same token, I'm like, well, this is, it's a 1.5-year job, and am I doing the right thing? And I gave it up for a reason at one point, and I just fell back in love with it because now I'm not in the right away anymore. I was in the office, and he gave me that chance, Davey Anderson. And again, Big Dave supported me on all these jobs, and I fell in love with it after that Clipper job. And since then, Nick, I've been hooked, man. And I never want to stop supporting people in the pipeline. That's why I try to be a vocal advocate for it every opportunity I get. So when I saw kind of you and Sean talk about your One More Boom pipeline, because you talked to me about it like a year or two earlier before it got going. And I remember thinking, this industry needs somebody to put their arms around it, because the community is there, but to put your arms around a certain area of say, hey guys, there's more to it than just, you get good money, but guess what? That money disappears and it's gone. We need some guys like you to put your arms around a small group and say, guys, you can still be part of the community, still be part of the industry, but there's another way. What is that way? Well, it could be financial investing, could be training, could be being a mentor. So that's the kind of the community I can see you're building. So when you said, do you want to come on and sit down and have a BS with me out in the field somewhere? I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah, he's in the desert right now out in Dubai somewhere. Hopefully he's still kicking. I haven't talked to him in a couple of days, but I'm sure he's good. Yeah. But when it's really interesting, the family aspect of it and how you got into it, it intrigues me because I didn't come from that. I fell into it through different ways, and your route was way different, which is similar to a lot of like 3rd gen, 4th gen generation.
I'd say my route even probably more common than yours. Even. Like people stumble their way into it, but it's always because of friends and family. I'd say my way is probably the norm, even still.
100%.
It's either family or friends bring you into it.
Yeah. So when Big Dave brought you in, you would have been how old at that time?
So in 19, I would have been 19 when I did my first one as surveyor's helper. And that was such a gift. I was in Ontario, and now they were doing a compressor station. So I was a surveyor's helper. So it's a union type province and job and stuff like that. So again, young kid, green as could be, just out there trying to do a good job. And I'll never forget, a truck was when we weren't being a surveyor's helper, which I thought was cool. So I'm sitting in the yard, having a coffee, and I saw a truck roll in, offloading a bunch of welding rod. And I'm thinking, oh shit, well, I'll get out there and, try to help and hustle and be that kid. I don't want to let Big Dave down. I want to be that guy, even as a young kid. And man, I'll never forget it. Some guy came out of one of the shack, like screaming at me. And I'm like, holy shit, what just happened? And it turns out he's like, that's a helper's job. You put that down right now. And then he went marching into another shack. And I'm like, I don't know. So now I'm like going away with my tail between my legs, just sitting there. I'm like, am I done? What happened? I don't even know to this day. So I definitely, there's not as much of that yelling and screaming, garbage can kicking shit as there used to be. So when you were coming up, it was there.
Hard hats flying across the face.
And I'm not saying it's not there. There's some real dickheads still out there, but you definitely don't see it as much as you used to.
I could, at that age coming into it, I was in a boiler shop when I came out of high school and then moved into that aspect. But coming onto a field job is totally different than any shop environment. So I could just imagine what that was like being a little kid.
It's funny because I talk about that a lot now, not necessarily that experience, but I talk about, the cultural difference between the site life and the home office life, because there's such a cultural divide, and I don't like it. I don't know how you can fix it because they're very different things, of course, but I would love to be able to kind of bridge those gaps a little bit with people. And I don't quite know how to do it because they're so different, Nick. I mean, you know how it is.
Yeah, it's great. And, so jump forward a little bit. You did the house building stuff and all that, and then you came back into the industry. How were you married at that point? Or?
Yeah, so I would have been in 2008. So we would have been married. Coming up on probably we started August long weekend, so I would have been 8 years married at that point. Geez. And we had 3 kids already going on. So Marie, bless her, she came out and visited a lot with the kids, so I could see them and spend some time with them. So she'd do that probably, I'm going to say, once a month, and she would come out on her own. Again, this 8 or 9 hour drive to get to Regina area, and to this day I'm so grateful for doing that because we never really, not to say we didn't have the same bumps and speed bumps and relationships and challenges that everyone has. But I mean, a lot of that effort is thanks to her that she put into it for sure. Eventually the kids get older and it's tough and start school and sports. You can't do it anymore. But even since then, we've seemed to, in spite of ourselves, kind of managed and stumbled our way through it. But so that was 2008 and 9. So it was almost 2 years. By Christmas 2009, went back to Calgary, and I just, again, you need to keep working, young family and stuff. And I talked to Big Dave. I'm like, so I see these people working offices downtown. Like how does that work? Like how do I do that? Like, and I couldn't figure it out. And he's like, oh, well, you're not going to believe this. A headhunter just phoned, and they said they're looking for a senior estimator, pipeline estimator. And he said, I don't want to do it, but he said, sure as shit, you can do it. I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. So I went and talked to his headhunter, and I'm trying to not swear and put on my best Sunday clothes and be a grown up or whatever. And that's how I ended up working for an operator for a couple of years. Good experience, but very different culturally. Whoa, I did not fit in. I talked to so many people. I said my first week or two there, again, I'm just, I try to not, even today, I'm trying to not swear, not because I have a dirty mouth, but it's just so part of our vernacular. So every now and again, you're in a meeting talking to someone and you can feel them tighten up a little bit. I'm like, oh shit. Okay. So I shouldn't say that word. Okay. That's off the limit. No more saying that word in meetings with people.
It is. It's a descriptor for a lot of things.
Sure.
We use it to describe anything.
It's an adjective to describe everyone. So I am trying to be better about it. I still, in my heart, I'm still that guy on the right of way, dirt on my boots, blue collar guy. And I don't know if I even want to be anyone other than that person. Yeah. But it polished me up probably for a couple of years. And then back to the field.
It's so great. And that, like, coming from the field and moving to the office, what would you say was, because that's something that we're encouraging a lot of people to try to, whether it's in pipeline or moving to other industries, is navigating that, or how, like you said, how does that even happen? I'm here. How do I get from here and move to there? What do you think was your biggest contributing factor to be able to make that happen? Was it a mindset shift, or what do you think it was?
I would say, I mean, initially I was kind of leaning towards more being in town because I saw so many ruined relationships up close and personal. Like, these are all my friends, and I don't just know the guys, Nick. I know the wives and the kids and stuff. So, and I was just trying to be proactive. And Marie and I had a great relationship even then. But I thought, well, why not be proactive? Why not try to get it together before you end up in some sort of counseling thing, So I'm going to work in town for a couple of years. So thank God I have a big Dave, and I get not everyone does. I get it. But like, I had someone to phone, and I said, Dave, like, I don't understand. Who are those guys? Do they go to school? How do they do that? And he's like, no, it's just headhunters. They phone me all the time. So he said, I don't want to do this job, but he said, sure, shit, you can do it, literally. And so he gave me they phone these people. So I phoned a headhunter, and they were trying to talk to Big Dave, and they said, yeah, he doesn't want to do this job. But I said, what about a guy like me? And they said, do you have your resume? So I kind of cobbled together something that looked like a resume. And yeah, sounds good. Met the Trans-Canada guys, and then off kind of we went for a couple of years. And yeah, so if you don't have someone to kind of talk and guide you, and again, this is where I think you and Sean can actually help each other, because I didn't even know, like, literally, like, how does this work? And so if you can even tell someone, hey, like, guys, there's even like teaching people how to job hunt and headhunters, and how does this work? And like, just even that educational component, you could open up a lot of guys' eyes, because right now they cannot see themselves from going to the right away to an office. Like, there's no bridge, and that's where you can really help, I think.
Yeah. And there's ways, like, and I talk a lot on it because I fell into it. Like, we're moving with this clean energy company, and it was literally sweat equity of things that I was posting on, things and then you just learn how to speak to people. So as soon as I got on the phone with them, you're able to articulate things a lot better and frame yourself in a different place.
But I would say, Nick, like, you did come from the right away, and so you have a lot more credibility when you're talking about some of these stuff, because you're not just talking about theoretical. So even just by coming out of the field for so many years, I think by default you do have a lot of credibility in terms of people wanting to listen to you and kind of believing what you say.
Yeah, and that's something that's huge, and it's something where you is first you got to believe it yourself. But where I come with that is, enough, when you look at evidence, if you can build enough evidence behind you, then you gain the confidence. I think it comes that way. So I think, I've did enough of it in the field, moved up in the ranks, and now taking that and trying to educate. And it's not easy when you come, like you said, it's no different than going from the field to the office, but now we're trying to educate. Not everyone's an educator. So we're trying to navigate that as best we can and frame it the right way.
Again, something I've described to other people is, we always talk about mentoring, and the reality is, mentoring doesn't come naturally to everyone. Whether because it's just not their personality, or some people are just a little bit more withholding of information, they don't want to. But regardless, again, this is something you could really help people with, just even give them the confidence by being approachable. It's that simple. Like, what sparked your drive to go from the field to the office?
Well, even to inspecting was just move up. Like, I had I wasn't happy where I was. Well, like, I was happy, I should say. We were making good money at the time, and I was pretty good at my job, and I just wanted that next step. But again, what is that next step? Well, is it inspection, or is it supervising? I don't really want to deal with the guys in that aspect. So inspecting is a different way to go. Okay. And then after doing that for 10 years, then it's like, okay, what is next? And that's where we started to kind of move directions.
But some people don't even, and again, this is not a negative or a positive, but some people, they get to that point where they want to be at, and that's where their comfort level is. They're happy. So some people don't even necessarily want to pursue that next step necessarily until they're forced into it, like a brutal economic downturn or something like that.
Oh, and it's too late. I was on a call this morning, and that was talking about laying the foundation. And if you're not doing that now during the downturn, well, when it does pick up, well, now you're behind the 8 ball. So everybody now that is learning the skills, and they're either going to school or they have a mentor that they're talking to, or taking that money and deciding where they want to put it, whether that's investing into businesses, starting a business, buying a business, or some other real estate, whatever it is. But now when it starts to swing again, you're not positioned correctly to be able to take advantage of it. Hence the one more boom. We all know that there's going to be more, but if you can take advantage of the next one, how huge is that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
I wish we didn't have such kind of short memories, because we know it's coming, but you just can't envision it when your hair's straight back and you're flying, and you don't until you've gone through. Because as a younger person, I didn't really go through too many downturns. I think 2008 when the tap got turned. That was the first time I'd ever been like, that's what you guys, my mom, my dad, that's what you're talking about. And it turned off like pretty quick in 2000 and I want to say 15 or something like that. It was about the same, 14 or 15. The tap got turned off. So you don't realize how quickly you need to pivot, for sure.
Oh, it's huge. And would you mind touching on that? Like, if we go back in time to when you were kids, do you think that affected the household during those?
I would say, Big Dave was always away, working away. So I would say, we were a very close family. We always had food in our bellies and had clothes on our backs. So as kids, you're just dumb kids. You didn't know you really were going without. Were there tough times? For sure. Big Dave talked about some really brutal times on kind of the mid 80s. This is when the NEP policy, Trudeau #1, was kind of kicking into gear, and basically devastated our industry. And that's how we end up living up in Yellowknife, because he just basically was just hanging on by a thread, and you do what you got to do, and you end up going up there, and we lived up there. And he built highways for a couple of years, and we all went with him and back to Kamloops. And I would say as a kid, you don't know. Like, in retrospect, you can think back and go, okay, yeah, that must have been tough on my mom and dad, and keeping us all kids indoors and fed, and because you want the best for your kids, Nick. I know you have a couple of kids as well, and you do whatever you can for them. But again, I was just a kid. I didn't know until looking back in time and now talking to my parents, and it was tough times for sure. But so did it affect us? Maybe. We just, but I'll tell you, we had food in our bellies and clothes on our backs and indoors, and had all the love in the world. So I don't know, maybe it affected us, maybe it didn't. I didn't feel it.
No, and I love that part of it and learning more about it. And thanks for that, because I don't think not too many people know Big Dave's story per se, but it does speak to the fact that he did what he had to do, even though he loves pipeline, and we all know that. So to go and do that, it must have been very hard to make that decision to, hey, let's go do this other thing.
Oh, for sure. I'd say from talking to him, he said, so much of it is, I don't want to say pride as a guy, but even as a provider, as a father. And again, he said, when he was tapped out, he was tapped out. Like, at some point, there's just nothing in the well, or the wells around you can normally lean on a little bit, and he had some really good support mentors from friends of that age, where they're like, you get to that point, it's bad. Just, don't declare bankruptcy and do whatever you can, because that's something that haunts you. And he had some really good guidance, he said, his friends, and that's just hang on. That's why I always tell people, hang in there, because it's hard, especially when the end of the month's coming, but hang in there, because that day will come when something will happen, or a call or something. And then, but you got to hang in there and get there. And he took a job up north, and he said, it's such an expensive place to live back then in the mid 80s, but between building highways and all the overtime you could get, and he said they were able to get it. And my mom, she went out to work, of course, and just whatever you could. And we had a guy, he was from Iran, refugee or something, live with us too in the basement. And so the government of Canada, whoever, paid rent for him to live in our house. So between that, my dad working, and yeah, we seemed to kind of get through it or whatever, but it was a pretty brutal time, not just for our family. I think if you look across the whole kind of Western
Mhm.
Canada and beyond, it was a pretty tough time. And I talked to even Sweet Marie's dad, Alex. So he moved out here, and when you talk to him, so he's about the same age as Big Dave, he's kind of mid-70s, say, and they talk about that national energy policy and how they just devastated our industry in a lot of Western Canada. And for them, even at that age, so they're in their mid 70s, it's very personal.
Mhm.
It's very personal, and they get very emotional because they had friends who, took their keys to the bank and returned and moved back to their parents' house in Ontario. So these are like adult family people, and they're basically financially devastated because these economic policies. And now again, I definitely don't want to get into it now with Trudeau, the new guy.
Yeah.
But again, I'm at the age, you're at the age where we can actually see these things happening in real time, and it's very scary. And I'm even very concerned even right now.
It's good to be aware,
Mhm.
and yeah, I don't want to really touch on the politics part of it, but it's the fact that it's happening regardless
Mhm.
whether we want it to or not.
For sure.
But there are things that we can do
Mhm.
to be creative and yeah, take on other jobs,
Mhm.
take on jobs that we're in industries that we don't want to be.
Mhm.
I got a pipeline superintendent buddy of mine that might be taking a civil job right now, and it pains them. And
Oh
even
yeah.
though he said, oh, pride and this and that, and it's not about this, but you can tell when someone's defeated.
Oh
You can
yeah.
tell when someone's like, but this is really what I love to do.
Mhm.
But it's not about that. It's about paying the bills right now.
For sure.
It is.
Yeah, I talked to an engineer guy yesterday. So he's had a tough go of it for a variety of reasons,
Yeah.
health, work, whatever. But he said, yeah, so he's thankful he's working again right now, but he's also shoveling snow on the side and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, maybe it's definitely not what I like to do, but the reality is, yeah, it does bring in some extra money and it all helps. And
Yeah.
you want to keep the missus and the chickens fed and you do what you got to do. And yeah, there is some pride swallowing stuff, but he has such a great attitude about it because he's like, you know what? Once I started social stuffing, you realize, oh, this is actually therapy because
Yeah.
my brain turns off, my heart's pounding in my chest, and all of a sudden I'm not focusing on the finances and the monies and the worries. I'm focusing, and all of a sudden my mind goes somewhere else. And it's actually really good.
Well, it is. Anytime that you are doing a physical task,
Mhm.
there's purpose behind it. Yeah, and it is good, especially as men.
Mhm.
Not saying women can't,
Yeah.
but especially as men, yeah, you want to throw shit around and you
Yeah.
you want to hammer, and it is good when you start to get that adrenaline out
Well,
and that frustration, right?
one thing I know you'll appreciate for sure is I always describe that as that's why I ride a motorcycle.
Yeah.
Because I said, it's for me, that is my therapy, not because it relaxes me. No, on the contrary, I got so much noise in my ears and my chest and bugs in my mouth, and I'm looking all over the traffic. My head's on a swivel, and I'm not focusing on anything else because I'm focused on trying to stay alive and
Yeah.
try to stay healthy and active. And then by the end of that ride, which might only be an hour long, I
Yeah.
get back and holy shit, I feel better.
It's so good. Yeah. I don't know if you've done it or not, but head down the Pacific Coast Highway.
We have done not on bikes.
Not
We've
on a
done
bike? Oh, yeah. A different
yeah.
story on a bike when yeah. And if that, we used to ride
Mhm.
irresponsibly back in the day. So yeah, there's not a lot of time to think is where I was
Oh
going
yeah.
with that. When you're passing, maybe when you shouldn't be passing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So not encouraging that. That was younger Nikki. So yeah, we're good.
I would say it's on my radar to do. I'd say I'm always at the back of the pack. I'm the slower old
Oh
boy
yeah.
or whatever. Not because I don't like driving fast. It just at this stage, I'm just go for a rip, and I'm
Yeah.
happy.
It's so good. No, so I guess other than bike riding and
Yeah.
being with the kids, and how many kids again?
We got three now,
Yeah.
so we're almost empty nesters. So that's a terrible pill to swallow.
Oof.
I've had explained to me before, so we feel it right now, and it's
Yeah.
not nice. Yeah, Summit. He did a couple year engineering geomatics thing, so he's out running drones on the pipeline, and
Yeah.
now he's out as labor out in BC and Squamish, Coquitlam area on a pipeline job, and he's happy. And Trek just went out. You'd start at University of Victoria this
Mm-hmm.
fall. We got two kids out of the house, and little Journey Bird. She's just in grade 12, and looking at applying to universities and these kids, you remember they were born. I know you got a couple kids,
Yeah.
and here they are. They're like adults.
Oh, yeah, my daughter's in college.
Yeah.
She's 19 and boy's 17. So yeah, they're right there with you. And so managing, yeah, they're moving out of the house. Marie, she's still in the industry here at
For sure.
Pipestone. Yeah.
And she wants to stay in it. She's talked about it a lot. It's actually, we've had a lot of good heart to hearts lately because she said, it's pretty quiet there. And again, we're still in a situation where we need to be working. She said, she applied for so many different seats and stuff. And a lot of them, she's like, I know I can do that job and I'd be good at it. I'd probably even like it. And of all the resumes you send out and applications, she's like, most of them don't even get back to you.
Yeah.
And she had a couple recently, I'm going to say a week ago. She said it like literally bounced back a rejection. She's like, what? And all we can assume it's like those HR bots or whatever. So I said, oh, maybe, I don't know what to say. But yeah, but she loves the industry. She's a strong supporter of it. She's been around it since she's been with me. And so her to be behind a computer, she came out this summer for the first time, which was great, and spent the summer on the field. And she says, yeah, this field life is for her. So she actually digs it. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool. That's awesome, babe.
Yeah. It's so good. So that's them. So with Dave, though, yourself, what's next? So you've moved up to, you came from the field into the project management seat now. What's next?
I would say, again, I know it's not for everyone, but like I love this industry, and it's hard for me to envision a life outside of it. And I don't know if that's because of what I've always done, but I love it, Nick. Like I love young people. I'm probably not always the best at teaching, but I'd like to become better at it by spending time with young people. And I look at my own life, the guys I look up to, the old boys, and they're still out there giving her. And, probably there's a good chunk of them aren't necessarily doing it for money. Like they're set up and all this kind of stuff. But they're out there giving back. In her pipeline, and Big Dave's the one. He was out on an Enbridge as a CM all summer. And he's, I think he's mid-70s, and he's so active and healthy and vibrant and just smart and likes to laugh and just... So I say that only because those are the guys that I've always looked up to. And if everything works out okay with my health, maybe I'll be an old pipeliner one day, And so that's what I like. So is there something else next beyond this? Maybe. But for now, I'm just so happy to focus on that. If I had one dream or hope, I'd love to go do a pipeline job somewhere else, like overseas or in a different country. Like that's something I would really like on my personal resume.
Perfect. Huh.
We'll see, though.
No, that's so good.
Yeah. I'll tell you a story real quick. So this is about 5 or 6 years ago. I remember we were sitting around the Pipestone office. Again, you're just plugging away, helping people plan jobs. And Big Dave comes and tells me, he's like, on this Pipestone resume, the info at Pipestone, people ask general queries. So this guy keeps emailed a few times about come do a pipeline job over in Lithuania. It's got to be spam, right? I don't know, man. Maybe. I don't. It sounds like junk. We had a friend of ours, Mike Wagner, another old boy. Bless him. He's passed away a couple of years now. And he said, well, why don't you ask for half the money up front and see what they do? Oh, man. Sure as shit. I think they sent $40,000 or euros or whatever it was. And we're just like, holy shit, this is real. So we're kind of trying to reach out and talk to the guy. And turns out they were recently part of the EU or something like that, and they had to build a big pipeline job in Lithuania. So it was going to go to a Lithuanian contractor. Well, there's only 3. It's a small country.
Yeah.
And these 3 pipeline companies, they got together. They said, well, rather than cut each other's throat, why don't we work together? And that's what they did. But they were worried about follow because it's so structured, these EU and the templates and specifications. So they hired us to go over there. So we're scrambling who could go over there. Dave was busy, Mike was busy, and then I phoned me and my friend Sadri. He's like, Sadri, do you want to go to Lithuania for me? He's like, yeah, whatever, for sure, sounds good. So we're like looking on a map, like where's Lithuania? So we're figuring it out. So we got some flights over there, and went over there for a few weeks, helped put together their project execution plan and get it all built and stuff. And we ended up flying back to Canada. The project got stalled briefly because of some engineering issues, but it was such a limited experience. Oh man, if a fire was ever lit in me that day, that was it. Yeah. So that's what I'd love to do. If I had the chance to go down to the US or overseas, I would jump on a heartbeat for sure.
That's incredible that you thought it was spam. And
oh yeah, he even said, well, Mike, why don't you ask for half the money up front? I'll never forget that conversation they sent it. We were scrambling.
Wild. No. So, but that's a testament to
Yeah.
setting things up. You had the, you had the company for one, you had the website, you had the funnel that they could now click on this thing, and it could be anybody. It could be anybody.
For sure. It was funny. I think we had it going for, this is at least 2 or 3 years into it, and no social media, nothing. And I think it was Sweet Marie who came and said, she's like, you guys are idiots. Like, what are you doing? So she came in for a little bit and got like LinkedIn and Facebook and just all these things going. And she did it for a while until she got busy doing other things. Then her friend took it over. But yeah, funny things is setting up a small business that you don't think about, but are like super important, like social media.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, a lot of us, we didn't grow up with it. We didn't.
Definitely not.
But trying to embrace it now for the good, and I think we talked on it on when you interviewed me the other day, it was being a creator instead of a consumer, where create the content instead of just consuming all this garbage. That's a lot of it is. So,
and even the act of creating it, like it's such an interesting process, because I'm not a creative guy, and I wouldn't even know if I'm a public speaking guy, but you kind of become one just by doing it. Like you walked in, say, half an hour ago, and Adriana Wilson is her name, so I don't really know her, but kind of Facebook familiar, I would say. And she reached out and said, hey, there's a bunch of these jobs, like they're available like now. They need a bunch of bodies to go do this traffic control and lane closure technicians, they call them. Okay. And, Prince George Canal, interior cam loops, all this type of stuff. And I said, would you mind if I share this? She goes, oh my God, please do, for sure. So, you crank out a video rather than just share a post. I thought, well, ask the question, how much money, and actually try to do a video that's only a few seconds long that I'm hoping will catch people's attention, that has money information, all the details. Here's the contact. Apply today, And I'm hoping if that got to 1 or 2 people through me, man, I just think that would be so awesome, man.
Oh, it's the power of it. Yeah. And that's part of your, why your channel's been growing and everything, because you've been so consistent at it. And that's, it's great to see other people doing it, because when you're someone like myself who's been in it for 7 years in the social media game, and it was very painful at the start, and nobody's watching, nobody's doing it, and you don't really know what you want to say. So yours is very tailored. It's very tailored to positivity, and then also job creation, or not creation, but fulfillment when things come up.
For sure. And I hope that's how it's viewed, because even I've had a few people talk to me about different mental health issues. And I said, look, I'm not that guy either, because I'm definitely don't know what I'm talking about. All I'm trying to do is spark conversation. But I find if you do start talking about the same thing enough that you see, it'll certainly resonate with some people, and they will it'll kind of grow organically on its own. So I don't necessarily want to be known as a mental health guy per se, but would I love to be known as someone who's approachable? And if you get backed into a corner, I could probably reach out to that guy. Oh my God, absolutely. Every day.
Oh, it's so good. Yeah. And that's just, the power of consistency and the messaging. I had someone reach out to me the other day for dating advice of all things. The single divorce guy over here. And he just, he's like, no, man, we need to have a chat. So
it's a good topic.
Or how much do you charge for this? I'm like, I've never really thought about it. So anyways, he flipped me some bucks, and we had a conversation, and we talked about dating.
But I think it's great, actually. Yeah. So actually, divorce guy, I think that's great, because you can actually relate.
Jeez, unfortunately, in the new world, she's wild times, man.
Well, I remember when we were first, one of a really close friend of, I want to say Sweet Marie's, but ours, when she was kind of went through it, you go through the divorce thing, and then you're back on the dating scene. And again, going back some years now, it is just the nervousness and the trying to navigate it all, and the profile creation. And so I got to watch her and Marie go through it. And I just, again, we're giggling and laughing the whole time, because it is so nervous, uncomfortable. And, fast forward, I've talked to so many people, and that is so the norm now, is online dating. Whatever platform you use, it's very much the norm, such that I don't even know if people know how to get going otherwise.
No, especially so many people will still work
Mm-hmm.
from home or remote or however that works.
For sure.
We don't go out. There's so many people don't go out. So yeah, it's literally almost one of the only places that you're going to meet people other than work in the gym, which apparently you're not supposed to talk to people at the gym anymore, which is weird.
I've never figured that out because I love the gym community. I'm more of a workout from home now, but I went to the gym for years, and I kind of like that community and helping and spotting each other and helping and being supportive and good compliments and all that kind of stuff. And now you look at the social media stuff with the cameras, it's like you're not even supposed to talk to people anymore. And I'm like, well, that's kind of too bad.
Oh, it is. I grew up in a powerlifting gym in Lethbridge, and this was like, yeah, 300 some pound guys throwing around big weights, all the stuff. It was awesome. And you come from that, and everyone's squatting at the same time, everyone's deadlifting at the same time, and or whatever it is. But it's 4 or 5 of you doing the things. Yeah, to come from that to today's gym culture, yeah, I still can't wrap my head around it.
Yeah, definitely neither can I. I feel very fortunate right now because if I go through even my own friends group, very active group for sure. So say there's 10 of us, we all go to the gym, I'd say fairly regularly and are active, so I'm very grateful for that support and inspiration and lots of text threads and hey, went to the gym, here's a wildly supportive group, and it's all around physical activity and walking and gym and diet and stuff like that. And thank God, because if I didn't have that, I would be probably a monster big guy, not in a good way.
Yeah, we love the cookies.
No, the chip monster, chip and cheese.
Dude, no, this is sick. No, I appreciate you sitting down today and learning more, because it's been watching your journey now. You're how many episodes deep in?
I think I just did 25 today. It was a couple hours ago, and it was a young kid from Saskatchewan, and he's a machinist, and I lived out on the island. He was telling me, which is beautiful. Who doesn't love the island? And then he moved to Saskatchewan just because he said, there really wasn't the industry work there, but he go to Saskatchewan. He's like, almost like there's no limit. I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I lived in Saskatchewan for a couple of years, and I thought it was awesome. So, and he said, yeah, I don't know if I'll ever move back. He said, my family's still on the island, which I love, but he said there's too much opportunity in Saskatchewan. So I think he's been out there about 5 years, and he just reached out on LinkedIn saying, you and I just talking and having a bullshit. And I said, I always throw it out to someone. It's like, hey, podcast, because I never really know how to pose that question because I know it's not for everyone. And I know, I don't even know, like I said, just you and I talking to each other, nobody's listening. Do you want to do that? And he said, yeah, absolutely. I think that's awesome, man. I'm like, oh, cool. Thanks. Do you want to phone me? I'll send you a link. He's like, yeah, sounds good. So he did. He phoned in and we had a bullshit for about 45 minutes. It was great. And again, met someone new that I talked to on LinkedIn, but now we kind of are connected, and I love it. Love it.
This is great. So 25 episodes. Yeah, you're in the 1% now.
Am I?
You definitely are. Yeah.
Well, I'll just keep doing. Like I said, I don't know who's watching, but like I said, I just feel compelled for some reason or another just to share people's stories. And again, you and I, so we met along the way, and I think you're an interesting guy, and you got a really cool story to me. And even for you to sit down with me, not once but twice, and kind of share that is interesting for me. So if nobody even listens, it's been a real gift for me, So I hope to kind of do that with other people. And where is it going to lead? I don't know. I'm not too sure, but hopefully it'll meet some good relationships.
No, and that's why I asked you to sit down today, because you're interviewing other people essentially on your show, and nobody's really getting the who is David Hermanson.
Yeah,
this is great.
No, I appreciate it. Well, like I said, anytime you want to sit down, it's definitely big on encouraging and supporting other people, as are you, which is probably why you and I kind of connected originally. And as far as the industry now, where everyone is like really not in a great place out in Western Canada anyway, I think we need as much love and support splashed around as we frigging can, for sure.
Definitely. So no, appreciate you sitting down again, and no, this is great, and I'm sure we'll chat again here.
I hope so, brother.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks, Dave.